Today we're going to do a tuning. We're tuning into the difference between agency and control. But first, I'd just like to start by dropping into the now, by becoming present and centered in yourself. Please join me in just a couple of arriving breaths. You don't have to do anything special, just maybe give a little wiggle, feel into yourself, realizing that you're right here, right now, and you're breathing. Welcome, welcome. Nice. Yeah. Nice, full, rich breath in, and then let the exhale just be the result of the inhale. If you kind of want to hover at the top of the breath and then top up and then just let empty happen. Ooh, good, good. Let's do that again. Nice full breath in, hover at the top, top up, and then just let empty fully happen. Excellent. And now that we've centered in ourselves and therefore really strengthened and defined the collective container, the collective field of this tuning, I'm going to go ahead and drop us into ground, right? Just really give an energetic tether point to the earth, to the ground, and then electrically speaking, really any frequencies, any static electricity, anything that wants to discharge from the system, we are establishing a conduit, just like electricity for a building, we're establishing a conduit for the electricity to discharge as needed, right? For those who feel tired and or overwhelmed in this moment, discharging energy does not reduce your voltage. It actually readies your system to hold better energy if you regularly ground and discharge. Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for joining, everyone. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to stop with the forks for just a second because I want to, with words, create what we're going to focus on today, and then I'll tune into it with the forks. So the difference today, the contemplation that we're considering, is the difference between agency and control. So this is a refinement, right? A different lens to consider internal locus of power versus external locus of power. This is a different lens to consider the phrasing, everything is an inside job. Everything starts within and goes without. And pretty much in every way, it is counter the current cultural messaging. The subtext, the subtitle on everything is control yourself, control outcomes, control, control, control. Who has control of you? Who do you have control over, etc., etc. And this is a thing. It if if we all believe it and if we all play along, then it is what's true and it is what's happening. But just like with kids on a playground, if everybody decides not to play, then the game ends and some new form of play, some new form of interaction takes its place. So cultivating agency, this is and always is an inside job, and this is also always available, always available to you. And it's through creating inner agency that you have your best opportunity to influence, to co-create, to manifest or materialize sort of what you want, which is different than controlling and manipulating or always spinning your wheels and deploying your energy trying to push against those that or whatever the forces that you believe are controlling you, right? You can spend you can spend all day every day worrying about who's controlling me and working against that, pitting yourself against that. Or you can turn inward, cultivate inner agency, and in so doing, you're breeding systemic coherence inside yourself, and in so doing, when people resonate coherently, when people transmit from a coherent inner state, they are always better received, better understood than if they were to transmit from an incoherent inner state. I was recently listening to a podcast with Rich Roll and Mel Robbins, and he was saying that you can only influence from what you already have, right? If you are trying to advise or influence or in any way affect anything outside of yourself and you haven't really bred that inside yourself, it always falls flat because you can't, basically, you can't give, right? You can't externalize that what you haven't got. That's agency, right? Well done. Yes, that's agency. So let's tune into this concept of being capable, breeding our inner capacity, feeling that we have, I can't think of the word, that we have the power to be effective in our lives and to influence our everyday. That is to be agent, right? It's not power over, it's empowerment. To feel like you are agent is to basically have autonomy and capacity for yourself. And then from that place to move outward. So let's breathe. Capability. I am capable, right? I'm trying to think of, I have agency might feel like a weird concept and hard for people to wrap their head around. So it's like if I felt agent in my life, what are things I might say? I'm fully capable. I can do. I can do. I have, I am listened to. I am seen and heard. I know that I can be effective. I know that I can effectively move through my days. I know that I've got it. I've got this. And I don't mean that in a bravado way, but to truly feel, I guess maybe well prepared, but you can have agency and feel sort of ill prepared. It is, it is a kind of self-esteem, right? It is a form of holistic, wholesome confidence. Wow, there's a lot of heat here. All right, let's wiggle this out. Confidence, self-esteem, right? Those are words, often, wow, that actually brought up some emotion. It was kind of like almost instantaneously, I just kind of wanted to cry a little. Ooh. Confidence, right? It's funny to hear that word. Like the first thing that I'm hearing in the ether is, yeah. I read an article on how to portray confidence, how to exude confidence. Okay, how do we have confidence? How do we feel confident? Do we feel confident, or is it that thing kind of get ready in the mirror? Do you have to like haka yourself into confidence, or have you just got it like an internal babbling wellspring of a brook of confidence? Not hubris, not cockiness, but confident. I can show up, I can see, and I know that I can. Confidence, right? Yeah, 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 there. Everybody kind of felt into that. Yeah, good. Nice, nice. I'm going to do a quick scan of the energetic body. And I really want to see, now that we tapped into the I canness that many of us were able to connect with, I want to see where that's living in the body. And we're going to tune into that zone. Yeah, okay. Wow, well done. Okay, okay, right on. Okay. It was kind of a combo platter of the solar plexus, which is our maps over our physical stomachs-ish, and the heart chakra. So, just because, let's go ahead and tune into the heart chakra. Because people, I guess, maybe that's the thing, right? Let's ride on the coattail of what people love, they feel confident about, right? Things that we really love, we can summon our inner capability, our inner capableness. Love really invokes and evokes our inner abilities, our inner capacities, our inner capabilities. Yeah, that's beautiful. Right? Feeling so lost, feeling really overwhelmed in this world, um, feeling really bombarded by external events and happenings and trends and energetic tendencies that we're watching roll out. Things can feel out of control. There is a rather a poetic turn of phrase that the world is on fire, and it's been oft written and oft quoted and oft said. But I've heard it a lot lately, and I think probably historically many people felt that they lived in a time when the world was on fire. So I don't think we're unique in that way, but I'm hearing it a lot, so people are really feeling it. Like I've heard it in some of the media I've consumed. And anybody who has ever witnessed fire or something, quote, on fire, it's out of control. It's certainly out of your control. Fire is its own master. And sh- and never does that diminish our agency, because agency is cultivated from within. And one internal impetus, right? One really strong internal driver for any person is that what they love? That'll light a fire under their ass, right? uh, and when we tap into, if we're feeling capable, and if we find that we aren't, then hopefully that prompts a sort of series of questions. Well, why not? What would you need to feel capable? What would you need to feel confident that you could? And there, friends, therein lies the beginning of self-study that cultivates a deeper, a particular sort of brand of self-awareness. So often we try to cover up or run past or compensate for a perceived deficit, but we forget to ask the deficit some really good questions, like why are you here, and what would you need to go away, to be turned down, because those questions will lead us into good, what we need, what we're really thinking, what we're really afraid about, where our fears are, where our anxieties are, where our lack of self-love and lack of self-trust, and really lack of faith, right? A note that I took yesterday from a webinar I was listening to was that faith is bred from patience and anxiety comes from impatience. And I really believe that to be true. To cultivate agency, you have to be patient with yourself. And you have to sit down and see what you need, because nobody else might be asking, but you can ask yourself. And then it's that thing where then you have to go about seeing to getting it, seeing to yourself. And then that breeds confidence, because when you sort of fill your own need, when you care for yourself and come through for yourself, yeah, come through for yourself. Man, the biggest agency depleter is letting yourself down. Is not caring for yourself. In one of the courses I'm taking, I've reread the sentence many times. Self-discipline is intrinsically linked with self-love, right? It takes discipline to slow down and ask yourself what you need. And then, interestingly enough, like, I wish it weren't such a thing. And hey, if we all cultivate more agency, maybe it'll be more of a trend that we care for ourselves more easily. But right now, as a collective humanity, it takes surprising discipline to get yourself what you need. Yeah, everybody was like, yeah, that's a thing. It is a thing. It doesn't really matter if I wish that were true or not. It is true. It's certainly true right now. And when we enact that self-discipline, one more thing that I got to do. I know, but this is the good stuff, right? This is the one more thing that I got to do, that when you do it, the payoff is like kapow, the ROI, right? The return on investment of that is like, that's the hockey puck. It's not one more thing that you got to do that when you deploy that effort, it's like nothing. No. When you care for self, the payoff is always guaranteed, period. And then when you feel agent, truly, you guys, that whole phenomenon, in a way that is really hard to capture in any kind of metrics, but anybody who's done it knows that it's a thing. Yeah, how many times I can't explain it, but for some reason, you know, after I've been meditating, after I've been praying, after I come and get tuned, Rebecca, it's like not a lot has changed, but it's like the people around me can hear me better. It's like the things that I say land better. My timing somehow magically improves. The way I'm received, the way I feel happier engaging with things that I used to dread and I never knew why. Right? It's all of those hard to measure things, but that is the stuff of life. Therein lies the gulf between a good day and a bad day, a good week and a bad week, right? Are those nuanced but oh so real differences between receiving and transmitting from a coherent, centered, grounded inner state versus a frazzled, depleted, exhausted state. Excellent, excellent. I want to keep going with this for another few minutes. I've been trying to keep these around 30 minutes, but this one just feels really, really delicious. You know, the other thing that's just really dropping in, one of the original Americans, not Eileen McCusick, who developed Biofield tuning, but one of the original Americans to work with tuning forks and to really get into sound as a healing modality is John Beaulieu, Beaulieu. And I heard a beautiful, beautiful conversation with him yesterday, and he was talking about grief. And the interviewer was asking him kind of a lot of overarching questions about his entire career as a therapist, meaning a psychotherapist, not just a sound therapist. And he said that so much of the time, what his patients needed to be able to better affect whatever problem, grief, pain point they had was that they needed to be basically replenished and restored, that they needed to have enough energy. They had to, um, they needed more voltage, right? They were too exhausted. He's, he gave the cutest story about, I guess, a time in his career where he was seeing several mothers, and he'd come in and he'd say, "You don't need therapy. You need a vacation. You're just exhausted. You're overwhelmed. Like it's too much. You need to recover just a little bit." And then I mean, you're doing the thing. Like there's not anything wrong with you. You're just depleted, right? And trying to control things always depletes a system. If you're lying, if you're manipulating, if you're bullying, if you're pressuring, if you're pushing, if you're extorting, if you're exploiting, that is always major energy output. But energy is generative, right? Not only do we generate it from the inside, but in so doing, we raise our voltage, right? We diminish our exhaustion and overwhelm by patiently, by slowing down what, by slowing down and being with ourselves, and in so doing, then the sort of rebounding, the restoration, all of this starts to wellspring up inside. And then everything is coming from a place of replenishment and more, as opposed to exhaustion and less. Good, good, good. And in a time when things seem awfully volatile and ambiguous and uncertain, cultivating quiet inner agency, nice, and living in to your life experience, making choices and organizing your priorities, right? I heard another quote, priorities are organized choices. You know, people can say, oh, I value this or I prioritize this. But then if you look at what they choose, it doesn't really reflect that. In the end, priorities are not, and values aren't the words that we say. They are displayed by the way we organize our choices and how we live our lives. And when we slow down and start to breed patience, then we breed agency. Then we breed faith. And I don't mean faith in a particular creed. I mean faith in self, right? Faith in life. Trust that we got this. And trust that it's all working out. And that you can. That you can do this. And that you do matter. And your contribution, your being, not contribution, you don't have to do, your being here is awesome. It counts, it's noticed, and celebrated. Oh, 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 there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for being here. It's so sweet. It feels so good. All right, you guys, here, I'm going to do some harmonics, celebrating inner capableness. You are here, and I'm glad about it. I hope you are too. Oh my gosh, right? That's awesome. Oh, there was like just a little bit of heat in the field, but it wasn't that hard burning heat. It almost felt like a little blush, like a flush. So sweet. I know, I know. It's good. I'm happy you're here. God, I'm happy to be here. What a trip. What a trip. Oh my gosh, right? Right? Yeah. Nice. There we go. All right, all right. I hope this contemplation and discussion on the difference between control and agency help. May you feel more agent. May you be patient with yourself and cultivate faith. It's, we're all in this together. I'll see you next time, friends. Thanks for everything.